Welcome back to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have Al Uszynski, inside lighting, yada, yada, yada. In the meantime, before we talk about anything else, we're going to talk about Incentive Energy's utilitygenius.com, Eric. That's UTILITYGENIUS.com. Utility Genius.
That's right. Stand out from your competition and become a rebate genius. You know why? Because it can help you sell more. With Utility Genius, you take the hassle out of researching utility programs and calculating estimates. Search by zip code, state, or utility program, and you can create a free account to save your utilities and get notifications if and when they change their programs. There's also qualified products listed on there from manufacturer. And all of this can be done for free. So leverage the best rebate to help you get the sale. I just did it myself in Ohio. I needed to figure out what the rebate was over in Ohio. I went to Utility Genius. It showed me exactly how to figure it out. And then I'm able to do the proposal and hopefully get the sale. We'll see. Become a rebate and utility program expert today at utilitygenius.com.
Incentive Energy, you just got the highest value endorsement ever. Eric has used your product. That's amazing. So check it out, utilitygenius.com. And of course, presented by the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Get associated, get educated. What are you doing, Al Uszynski?
You know, guys, if we're going to have a talk about future predictions, it's 2022. So, first of all, hello and happy New Year, Greg and Michael. And secondly, we take this stuff seriously. So we're doing a predictions show. I got the latest, most high tech prediction technology, fortune telling technology. We got the lighting industry crystal ball. And for those of you listening on the podcast, I'm wearing a fortune teller hat, a gold lame hat with purple feathers, slightly bedazzled with some fake plastic jewelry. And if you are watching the video of this, welcome to the end of my career as I further lose whatever credibility I have left. So thank you for having me on, guys. Happy New Year.
You too. Part of the
hang on
requirements
hang on a second here. So is that crystal ball connected by Bluetooth mesh to that hat, or how does that all work?
No, there is a wireless connection, but the crystal ball, which is really spec grade injection molded plastic, by the way, the crystal ball is actually connected to the universe in some way, and it's going to help us channel some of these predictions and share it with the Get a Grip on Lighting audience.
Awesome.
I love it. We all got our hats on. I got my nailed. Mike's got his Peaky Blinder, and you've got your genie. Let's get into it. 13 lighting predictions for 2022. So I'm going to read them off and we're going to discuss them. We did this last year too, so it's fun to revisit. The first one that comes up is from Trevor Palmer, president of Acuity Brands Lighting and Controls. Supply chain challenges will continue to impact our industry in the coming year. The use of technology to enable better information flow and to offer product alternatives to meet customer needs will be critical to success and a continuing trend. What do we got on that, guys?
He's talking about the switcheroo.
The switcheroo? What do you mean?
Yeah, I don't have this brand, but I have that brand.
I don't think so, because his comments are focused on technology. And so first of all, just the disclaimer for all of these things, these people are very well-regarded industry people.
Sure.
And we're just talking about their predictions. We're not speaking for them. So my take on Trevor Palmer's prediction, he's of course the president of Acuity Brands. My take is that they're going to be leveraging technology to provide better service levels to Acuity business partners, whether it be distributors, agents, etc.
Hang on. Read the last line of his quote. The second last line of his quote.
To offer product alternatives to meet customer needs will be critical to success.
The switcheroo.
I see what Mike's saying. And so what he means is, like you have a flat panel or you have a fixture or a high bay. Let's take a high bay because there's a lot more variety there. You have this high bay. It provides this many lumens, but so does this one. And we don't have that. So now we're going to give you this. And it's kind of what happens already in the sales world at lighting. We're out there selling an idea in a way. And then when you get this thing sold, figure out which idea you're going to sell.
All right.
Switcheroo.
So the Get a Grip guys are reading into Trevor Palmer's ideas with this glass half empty, like a hidden agenda. And
I love the switcheroo. I love the switcheroo. What are you talking about?
I'm reading into more of a from a like you ever go on Amazon and that pair of sneakers you want, it's going to be 2 more weeks until they have inventory back, but they can ship you the blue pair now, but they can't ship you the red pair for another couple of weeks. I feel like it
Horrible
might be that. Like,
metaphor. Horrible
what's that?
metaphor. That's a
Well, thank you.
horrible metaphor.
All right. So we
Al,
are like
listen.
4 minutes in. We're 4 minutes in and we've insulted each other at least 3 times. This is great.
No, but like people care about their shoes. They don't care about their 2x4 flat panels, bro.
The 3 of us wouldn't be yucking it up about lighting if we didn't care about
No,
lighting.
but what
Our
I'm saying is
customers
the
care
end
about
user
lighting.
customer.
Right.
The end
Right.
user
Right.
customer.
So
They
that's
don't
the thing.
care.
So what if,
They're
what if,
trusting Greg. They're trusting
what
Greg.
if this what if this technology portal allows you to say, hey, we can't ship this finish now, but you can get nickel bronze right away? Like, what if it alerted you to an alternative in that way, kind of like
Maybe.
other things do? Now, remember, Trevor's the president, but his boss, Neil Ash, is the CEO of Acuity, who took over 2 years ago. He comes from Walmart, and not the brick and mortar side of Walmart. He actually helped build the Walmart IT platform, the global e-commerce platform that relied on not only the logistics backbone, but also the IT to make these systems work. So when I listen to their quarterly calls and I hear them talking about technology to help enable better communication with our business partners, that's one thing that a lot of distributors and agents complain about, right? It's like sometimes it feels like 1999 when you have to call UPS to track a package rather than pull up the app on your phone. If there's a
Sure.
better way to have that information flow. So again, this is the way I'm reading into their comments, but I feel like they have some awesome scheme that they're going to unveil at some point, and maybe it's going to be incremental launches of it that's going to help people have more transparency to the process on made to order and stocked items.
And I
And I
can
hope
tell
it
you,
happens.
speaking from a distributor side and all the other distributors I talk to, they often buy from companies that provide them that info. And so he's
Yes.
100%
Agreed.
right. Like
100%.
you
100%.
need that info, or you're not going to get it. Not going to get the sale.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah, awesome.
All right. So we're happy with that. The next one, we're going to combine 2 together. So I'll read for a little bit, and then you guys can be ready to go. So the first one is from Monica. Is it Luis Lobo? Monica Lobo? And
Yes.
she's the president-elect of the International Association of Lighting Designers. She wrote, in the near future, users' awareness of the power of our work will increase exponentially. After experiencing disruptive times when values such as comfort and well-being have been understood from a different perspective, there's a great opportunity on our hands. We have the tools, the knowledge, and the creativity to imagine and design this new and better world. So that's the first one. Second one relates to some degree is Andrea Wilkerson, a friend of the show here that's been on a few times. She's a researcher for the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. There will be more opportunities in 2022 to increase the awareness and appreciation of lighting technology and research. As an industry, we can take for granted our collective ability to provide quality lighting to improve the lives of people as they work, play, and heal. We will engage with new communities in 2022 to learn and to share our passion for light. So there you go.
Can I ask a quick question on that?
Yeah.
Why did you combine those 2? I feel like they're, I kind of see why, but tell me why you combined them.
It was a suggestion from the real boss of this show, and there's 13 of them, so we're trying to get through them all.
No,
But
but
it
okay,
was
so I see, but I mean, what I'm seeing from Andrea, I really like. I like this idea of we need to get some dollars to the researchers. We really, really do. And I don't think that's the same thing as what the other lady was saying. Now I can't remember her name. Sorry for that.
Monica.
Monica. I think what Monica was saying was more that we can use lighting to help us create environments that are more comfortable and better for us. And I think Andrea's calling for focus on research, and Monica was calling for let's get out there and do this. Does that feel right to you guys?
I'll chime in first. But I also think it kind of goes hand in hand. You need to get things out there, but you need to research them at the same time to figure out what the right move is so that you can get more out there.
Good point.
Yeah, both of these esteemed women live in different parts of the lighting world, right? So Andrea with the Pacific National Labs is totally involved on the research side of it and sees the human-centric angle from those perspectives, whereas the president of the IALD is focused on the lighting design, the architectural lighting design for occupants, the focus on the health and wellness of occupants who actually live and work in these buildings that the lighting designers are in part designing for these people. So I think there's actually maybe a whole like cradle to grave aspect of it where the research is done on the
Yeah,
front end,
agreed.
and then the specification is done, near the goal line of a project to provide this. And I think one of the themes also, and it was my suggestion to combine the two in the interest of time, but I think one of the themes that I see as a common thread is that this pandemic, it actually shined a light, no pun intended, on the health and wellness conversation, where mental health was being talked about more openly, and people are realizing that being stuck in a world of back to back Zoom calls and whatever crappy residential lighting you may have tolerated in the past because you were only there for 2 waking hours a day, now that you're living in that space a lot more, people have realized that there's a real value to having good lighting and good lighting design. So I'm hopeful that the health and wellness conversation will resonate at the consumer level, so that when some architect is talking about it with some corporate client, that person realizes it in a way that they can relate, and not just in some like big picture philosophical way.
So
I think
get
those are
that.
two great predictions, by the way,
I do
or
too. Yeah.
proclamations. Yeah.
And what I want you to predict now with your crystal ball, Al, is when that conversation will actually become reality, and when are people actually going to do healthy lighting? What year is it? I mean, it might not. It's not going to happen this year. What year is it going to happen?
Yeah, I think like most things, you look at those adoption curves from the early adopters to the late adopters. It's a it's a wave, and I still think we're in the early part of that wave, obviously, and frankly, I think it's been part of the value proposition that these building owners just don't feel the need to invest in that technology. So I think we're still at the early stage. This won't be a common conversation until probably, realistically late this decade at the earliest, in my opinion. But I think the conversation is happening more. I mean, people, how do you put a value on buying organic food at the supermarket? But you do, because it's better for you than some of that processed stuff in the other aisles. And I think that conversation is going to be met with better with less resistance, in the present and the near future.
Perfect. We go on to the next one here. I apologize if I butcher the name here. Mike might need to pronounce this one for me, but is it Francois Xavier Sauvé?
Yes, we'll call them FX for short.
Okay.
FX Sauvé.
FX.
He is the founder and president and CEO of LumenPulse. He wrote, "The pandemic has caused an unprecedented situation that we believe will fuel further innovation from manufacturers, creating a more differentiated marketplace. As the industry moves forward, optical innovation will be key instead of a quantitative lumen approach. A clear and fresh focus will be placed on the quality of light."
Yeah, so FX heads up Lumen Pulse Group, this multi-brand company, Lumen Pulse and Sternberg, and among other brands. And by the way, a very smart Canadian. So there's some good Canadian representation here, Michael. Um, so with that in mind, his focus on this comment regarding a qualitative approach rather than a quantitative lumen approach, it reminds me of some of the things I hear Michael say sometimes about the dark sky argument, which is sometimes we're so focused on spitting out X amount of lumens on a surface that we forget some of the other implications. So it's not about how much light you're getting, but the quality of it and where it's being directed. So his companies are obviously more specification focused than others, and the clientele that purchases and specifies those fixtures understand. Mainly, I should say, generally understand those aspects of it, but hopefully that'll trickle down to some of the more economical general lighting brands as well, as far as how we were able to control light and its performance in a way that's positive and focused on that quality from a performance perspective, and not just on a light meter.
I like what he was talking about. When he had referenced sort of a shift in focus that's kind of been going on, and he's calling for it to be complete to me in 2022, where we're moving from the lumens per watt, incentivizing reduction in watts and all. And we've made it here now, and now it's time to focus on building beauty, and that lighting industry used to focus on. I think he might be right, to be honest with you. I think we might turn the page fully in 2022 on that.
Yeah, and I think, and what also relates to that is the companies that are going to be around, in
Mm.
2022 and going forward are going to be focused more on quality of light rather than just getting a sale and moving on. And we've talked about that enough. We all know what
Hmm.
those people are like, but they're starting to get filtered out. And maybe this is the year they're actually done, gone, quality from here on. Let's try it. All right. Next one is John Polk, the president and CEO of SESCO Lighting, SESCO Lighting. 2022 market recovery will continue to sputter in the commercial market as we see pricing pressures and supply chain constraints impacting multiple channels in the construction industry. Without any significant improvements in the supply chain, manufacturers will likely attempt to localize production to get product to market faster and reduce costs. Additionally, I believe the companies that can continue to be versatile and adapt to the challenges the COVID era have created will be on the leading edge of growth and stabilization in the recovery.
Yeah, so Sesco Lighting, for those of you that aren't in the Southeast, those of your listeners that aren't in the Southeast, they're the largest lighting agent in North America. They cover 13 markets, 6 states, actually 7 states now. They just entered an agreement into South Carolina, and I think they sell over $250 million a year of lighting products as an agent. So John, as the CEO, shares a couple interesting things there. The first one I'll focus on is the localized production comment that he made. Not sure if localized production means that you're going to have pockets in, you know, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Chicago, and Ontario, California, localizing production, or localizing production meaning no more China, Mexico, let's bring it to the US, or maybe no more China, let's bring it to Mexico. So localized can be interpreted many different ways. I believe that if I were reading into this, the localized means less offshore reliability. In fact, you go down to the component level. All this news about semiconductors and supply chain that we had last year and will continue into this year, 2022. You look at, there's 12% of semiconductors are manufactured in the United States, but U.S. companies comprise 48% of the demand. So, if there's a way to kind of flip that switch, and there's some legislation going on at the federal level that can hopefully fuel some more of that production here while hopefully keeping costs down, that might be a way for us to be less reliant and help localize that on that point. What do you guys think?
Yeah, do you feel that now that we're used to a pricing increase, are we going to continue to be used to it to get to the point where we can localize? Is that
Well,
going to be a reality?
let me just comment on both of those thoughts by you guys because we do have 7 or 8 more to go through. So I'm just going to jump in right now. Um, localized is yes, onshoring with the Monroe Doctrine. So somewhere in North or South America, that's what localized means. It means Monroe Doctrine in this speak. And the second thing is, yes, it's going to cause a cost level increase for 2 reasons. One, because everybody's doing it at the same time. Okay, so automatically the resources that would have been available are starting to thing. What we're going to see is an increase in cost and then maybe a little decrease 3 or 4 years down the road as people build the infrastructure needed to produce whatever widget you want to produce, whether it's a semiconductor or an L bracket or whatever it is. And so, yeah, I think it's a great point. I don't know if it's a 1 year. It sounds like more of a 5 year to me, to be honest.
Yeah, it would take time to move some of that stuff to different countries. I mean, right now you have companies like Intel and others that are investing like $17 billion in Texas and
Mm-hmm.
and Arizona. So yeah, those things just don't pop up in 90 days like an empty warehouse can. So yeah, it would take some
Mm-hmm.
time, but I think those companies that can better even going to Monterrey, which in Mexico is technically very advanced from a manufacturing standpoint. There could be some options there. So it would be exciting to see if we can bring some of that control
If
back.
you
And
guys
in
are
the
if you
end,
guys are wondered, let me just jump in here. If you guys have
yeah.
wondered why Taiwan is such a hot spot, it's because a lot of that stuff's made in Taiwan. The hot, amazing stuff. Taiwan Semiconductor, I think, is the name of the company. And like Trump started with it, I think the US government's forcing them to build a factory in Texas. As a geopolitical military move. So that's how serious this is in some senses.
I think even
You
the
had
potential of manufacturers bringing more product in and keeping stock levels higher. I think I'm seeing that with people building facilities or getting larger facilities so that they can have it and they can get it to you faster. Whether they actually make it or not, if they have it, that's a key for me.
Yeah, for sure. And on that point, Greg, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you not just building it, but having it at 6 different warehouses throughout the continent, which can help for that speedy next day type delivery too, is also going to help facilitate some of those things too. So yeah, exciting stuff.
Definitely. Next one here is Matthew Tershwell. He's the founder of Tershwell and Co. Architectural Lighting Design. He wrote, "Except in special circumstances, chip manufacturers will make the decision to discontinue the fabrication of LED chips that are less than 90 CRI. The efficacies are pretty strong already, and it seems that just like cool white and warm white of yore was discontinued, history will repeat itself."
So he's predicting that we're going to start standardizing on 90 CRI because it just makes sense to buy 90 CRI across the board, because it might be minimal benefit to producing multiple types of chips. And when you look at the cost, I think as long as there's general lighting manufacturers that are selling on price, I think there's going to be a market for lower CRIs as long as those lower CRIs are delivering more lumens per watt, because there are some buyers that are just after lumens per watt, and that metric combined with the price is going to drive a lot of decisions. But Matthew, of course, is a lighting designer who works on higher end architectural lighting. It does make sense to have that 90 CRI thing, and there are some improvements happening. I'm a couple years removed from knowing a lot about the component side, so I had to have a couple conversations with some people when I read Matthew's prediction. And so there are some improvements happening at the phosphor level that could promote better efficiencies happening at 90 CRI. But it's not the type of performance leapfrogging we saw 10, 15 years ago. These are, we're closer to the plateau from a performance standpoint of these things becoming slightly incrementally better. So I hope he's right. If given the decision to have multiple products with 80 and 90
Okay, but hang on
CRI.
a second. Hang on a second. I think the
Sure,
problem I
sure.
see with all this is that CRI is a little bit archaic.
Is it?
Like,
That's what my question was going to be. Is it?
yeah,
What
I
happened to this new
mean, like
metric?
the IES is already
I don't
talking
know.
about TM number what number sign. I don't know, right? And
Yeah.
they're talking about CRI doesn't cut it. So I don't know if we want to be making standards around CRI.
Yeah, that's fair. And I don't think Matthew's suggesting standards. I think he's suggesting that's how components are bought right now, right? There's
Okay, there
it's
you go.
components are bought 80 CRI, 90 CRI, and that's how you do it. But so I think it needs to change at the demand side when people are demanding that fixtures have certain performance levels that are more on the TM side than the CRI side, then that could cause the whole language to shift and the whole priorities to
IES
shift
better
in
get
different
moving.
mindset
The
there.
IES better get moving because a whole generation of LEDs is going to adopt the CRI standard. If they don't, and then it's over. Once the product starts to ship, too bad, sucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Well, these LED generations are much shorter than some of the fixture generations, but
okay.
you're right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. The next one here is from Daniel Salinas, the interim executive director of the IES. 2022 is going to be a year of the lighting industry trying to find its way in a new normal as people seek to reconnect one-on-one instead of over a computer monitor. The construction industry is awakening, and there is hope that this proves to be renewed growth for our industry with projects starting up. I see this year as an opportunity for the lighting industry to improve the way it does business from lessons learned over the last 2 years.
Renewed growth, pent up demand. I mean, those are some common things that we keep hearing. And first of all, I think it's great that Dan is he has a full time business related to lighting consulting, but he's taken on this temporary executive director role for the IES while the IES searches for a full time director. So this guy already has his hands pretty full, and he was able to share his prediction with Inside Lighting. And when you think about the renewed growth for our industry, that's great. I think there is renewed demand. You look at all the economic factors, and I love economic factors. We publish a lot of them on
Mm,
Inside Lighting. But at the same time, is it really going to grow unless you can ship and unless the customers still have the budget? Are these customers going to be able to swallow, that $20 million building that's now escalated to $27 million in the course
mm.
of 18 months? Are they going to be able to swallow that? Are they going to be able to do this? Is that going to cause things to be further delayed once we actually dig out of this slow roll of
Yeah,
improvement
my
on the
biggest
component side?
concern
What
is
do you think?
inflation. My biggest concern is
Yeah.
inflation. Like at a macro level on that comment, I think the biggest threat to his comment, not that I don't agree with it, I'm just saying that if there's a real threat, it's that high inflation rate. That suppresses growth, man, across the board in all industries. And so I don't when they want to slow down growth, the central banks of the world increase the interest rate, and they want to raise their inflation targets a little bit, and that's slow if the economy's too hot. That slows down growth. So we see that happening. So that would be my only concern with that comment. Although I think it's a fair comment.
A couple of things I took out of it is the new normal with reconnecting one-on-one.
Mm.
100%. That's something that we need to get back at. And we started to do we had Light Fair. I met Al for the first time in person. I didn't know he was 6'12", He towered over me. So that was fun. We need more of that stuff, and I think that's important. And the other thing that stuck out to me was what he wrote, the opportunity for the lighting industry to improve the way it does business from lessons learned over the last 2 years. I think as a lighting industry, we should learn from the last 7, 8 years. We've talked about, because that's
Yes,
really when LED
totally
started,
agree.
learning how we can get better from that. So whether we do or not, to be determined. All right. Next one, Christy Tilton, the Vice President, U.S. Professional Trade Sales at Signify. The lighting industry will come to terms with the fact that unpredictably is a new normal. The effects of the pandemic are here to stay and will continue to change how we do business to support customers while avoiding obsolescence. Agent manufacturer partnerships and digital e-commerce capabilities will become much more mature in 2022, and both are critical to stay resilient and nimble despite the shifting sands.
Yeah,
I think that's an
yeah. So
honest prediction. Um, it's not what she wants or he. Dan, is it? What's the
oh,
person's name?
this is Christy Tilton.
Chrissy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was. It's not what she wants, right? But she's just saying, like, you want a prediction now? Here you go. This is what I think. It's going to be unpredictable, and we got, that's what I really like, the honesty in it.
What do you folks think? So you folks both lighting distributors. I'm not. And she makes
Mhm.
a mention there of improving e-commerce capabilities. And e-commerce is one of those things that I still think is a sleeping giant when it comes to commercial industrial light fixtures. There's certainly transactions happening. And this is probably a tangent from what Christie's true intent was, but it inspires me to ask you because we have two lighting distributor guys on the panel here. Um, when we look at Amazon or really online shopping in general, the category, it's grown 1% per year in recent years. But during the pandemic, in year one, it grew like 8 or 9%. So the human psyche is now focused on, buying things online first, even when you have young decision makers at lighting designers or distributors who are surprised that you just can't go on Amazon and buy a 2 foot by 4 foot panel, a whole pallet of them or something. It's or maybe you can, but maybe not to the level of variety and price levels. So, what do you guys think? Is e-commerce something that's going to hit at the distributor level and create a real threat to
Yeah,
the
well,
local
I'll answer the
location
question.
distributors?
I'll answer. I know it's exactly what you're talking about. So what I've noticed anecdotally from my perspective is that nobody calls in an order for a case of bulbs anymore. Okay? So the order desk is not sitting there taking calls for a case of light bulbs. They either order off the website, they order off a marketplace, or they email you. They will not pick up the phone. Okay? So that, and I think the lower value orders, the replacement ballast that you need, one person needs in the garage, all that stuff's online. What's not online, Greg, and tell me if you agree with this, is somebody that wants to change their light fixtures and they need an incentive and they want someone to come there and install it for them or tell them how much it's going to be and guarantee the result. That's no different than before the pandemic, Greg. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree for sure. I mean, lighting is a hands-on business, and as much as you try and you can do, you have to have an online presence. 100% agree with that, and you need to get better at it, and that's something we all have to strive for as lighting distributors. But you also need that in-person element too, or the hand-holding through it, because lighting is confusing. It's even though a lot of the product looks the same, it's probably even more confusing than it was. I've been saying this since I started in 2006. Super confusing, and it's still the same. I
Intentionally
haven't figured
made
it out.
so. Intentionally made
Exactly.
so.
Yes. So it keeps us in business. So there you go. So I think, but you do need a presence for sure, and I agree with that. All right, the next one from our good friend, Dr. Mark Ray, the professor of light and
Ooh,
health
here we go.
research center at Mount Sinai. Lighting, specifically illumination, is becoming a smaller and smaller part of photonics. Photonics is photons with a purpose, whether it is Wi-Fi communications between automobiles, or UV air disinfection, or regulating circadian rhythms in submarines, or maximizing THC in cannabis. Illumination is not where the new, exciting ideas can be found, and therefore not where investments are being made. If we follow the money, there will be more soul searching among our colleagues. Some will leave lighting, some will stick it out, and a very small minority will find new purposes for their knowledge and expertise.
So Dr. Ray never disappoints, does he?
Whew, Noah,
You know,
best one, I
it's
think.
it's Yeah, in fact, you say that, Greg. Like, you guys ever have to be like, a quick tangent? Like, you're one of 7 presenters in a panel, and you go after the person that just knocks it out of the park, and you're like, oh man, I got to
Yeah,
follow that person. So I would not want to be the person in this article who follows Dr. Ray, whoever that is. Who is that, Greg?
mm.
Who is that?
That would be me.
Oh, that's you. Okay, all right. So
Thank you.
so but truly, Dr. Ray, so sometimes I'm guilty of this, right? And many of us can be guilty of it at times. We're in this echo chamber of the lighting industry, and we think general lighting, architectural lighting, and economical solutions, and sometimes it takes someone to drill it down to the photon level and stretch our mind to think that lighting is not just what we work on most of the time. It's these li-fi innovations, or air disinfection, circadian rhythms, or the THC levels in cannabis, and that people in our industry might actually leave to pursue innovations that can make more of a difference in other areas other than lighting. Do you guys think most of the lighting innovations are in our rearview mirror?
No, but what I would say is that we have yet to discover what light is and what it can do. And so, it's one of those things where we're I don't know if we're on the cusp, but we're sort of like a fish finding out, hey, we're in water. Did you know that we're in water? Yeah, holy, what's this water stuff? So light to, I think that's what Mark's referring to in a sort of Sesame Street way. That I put it is that he's saying that you know there's so much here. There's so much rich opportunities in understanding how light works that we can't really worry about illumination anymore. That's sad. That's not really even worth remembering about because once we figure this out, we're gonna understand the language of God or something like that. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. And we've had discussions with them, and I think
Yeah,
that's really what you got to take out of it is that you're still going to need your general illumination that lighting provides, but if and if it can do all this much more, how exciting is that in a way, right?
crazy.
Opens up our opportunities for everyone if they want it. Okay. The guy who followed it, Greg Eric, co-host of Get a Grip on Lighting, vice president of Premier Lighting. Yeah, that's me. In 2022, we will see collaboration in the lighting industry like never before. Major companies, associations, and accreditation agencies will work together to get the lighting industry under control again, and new leadership may emerge as a result. So I suppose you
Ooh,
want me to talk first?
what the hell are you
uh,
talking about, Greg Eric?
well, you start seeing it now. There's so many different fragments of the lighting industry, but they're all kind of working together more. It's been gradually, slowly doing that. Also, with mergers, acquisitions is a big part of it too, right? Big companies are buying big companies, and now they're all the brains of those are coming together. And I see it with associations that we're part of, and then that's where a lot of this comes from too, is seeing that collaboration that you have and people with the same purpose in mind to get lighting going again and get it where we want it to be and grow it really is what it comes down to. And it's going to take a combined effort of everyone.
Yeah, but I think the most important part is that there needs to be leaders that emerge in the industry. And I think right now there's a lot of chaos. And I'm just being honest. And I mean, the IES has an interim executive director. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not saying that that's embarrassing. It just is what it is. I mean, Tim Lecitra left after the pandemic started. They had tons of momentum. If you had been to the IES convention in 2019, that was a mind blowing convention. Okay, they had momentum, and then boom, everything's done, and Tim leaves, and now they're trying to get the ship back under control. I mean, I don't mean to say that as a criticism. It's just what happens when leadership leaves, and you need to start over, and you're kind of in the middle of a pandemic, and no one can visit each other. It's tough, man. And then you have who's gonna? But that's an opportunity. And our issues are bigger than illumination, just like Mark Ray said. We're talking darkness, health effects, all manner of different science. So I think it's a decent observation, Greg. I give you a C plus. What do you think, Al?
Yeah, I'm not going to give Greg a letter grade, 'cause, but in any case, it was astute, and I'm glad he elaborated because one of his comments was to get the lighting industry under control again, and so it left me asking, well, Jesus, not under control. What does he mean by that? And, we've obviously heard those thoughts now, and I think you bring the example of the IES, and that's like the biggest governing and maybe
Yes.
largest thing. But what I do like about this, and Greg's point to new leaders emerging, maybe it's a lot of these smaller organizations that have more of a niche interest. I mean, you talk about Dark Skies a lot, Michael, but you folks are also part of Nailed, which is also lighting distributors, not to be
Hmm.
confused with the industrial distributors and other things. And then
Hmm.
you focus on so like NEMRA for electrical lighting reps, and now
Hmm.
there's this new association for lighting agents called ALA, which is an emerging organization. So I think as you specialize some of these things, and you have the committees on the IS that spur into other things, there could be, and with women in lighting design, there's a lot of these different sub context groups that are emerging as giving a voice to people that maybe couldn't find a home earlier because you're in this big organization. So I think that these little sub contexts are emerging in a way that lighting people can find a home somewhere and can make a difference if they want to apply themselves to it.
And the other thing too is it provides a conduit for the grassroots to rise to the top quickly. Like people, practitioners in the field that know what the heck is going on, they right now they're not going to get blocked by the politics right now or whatever. Especially in the smaller associations, they can step out. Another one is NALMCO. I mean, NALMCO is really positioned well to make a difference. Like I don't, I we're Nailed was trying to get in touch with them. I think we're trying to get in touch with them in January just to see where they're at. But I mean, they're in such a strong position right now as the contractors, Greg, as well, to make a move. So there, I said it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's what a lot of it is actually getting the pulse of the industry, and that's what these organizations, the smaller ones, have. We're dealing with the people that are buying the product that the people are making. That combining all that together so we can all grow and get better from it. I think is what it's all about. So thanks for the C plus. Um, Next one, Andrea Hartranft. Can you give me that last name, Al?
Hartranft,
Hartranft.
Andrea
She
Hartranft,
All right. She is the FIALD principal of Hartranft's Lighting Design. If I said it right.
HLD, yes.
All right. In 2022, the sun will rise and set every day. Humans will depend on light in many forms to regulate, rise, sleep, work, play, and be. Lighting designers will continue to prove their value, sometimes noticeably, sometimes in a vacuum. So the
Oh,
value of lighting design, is she saying that it's going to be more needed than ever?
yeah, I think Andrea, I don't think she wanted to share some sort of bold prediction. I think she wanted to just go big picture and say, hey, the sun's going to rise and
Hmm.
set, and there's going to be light, and we lighting designers, we're going to make contributions. Sometimes you'll notice it, sometimes you won't, and that's the part that my comments are going to focus on is that lighting designers will prove their value, sometimes noticeably, sometimes in a vacuum, and to make an analogy to a sporting event, a hockey game, baseball. If you're talking about the umpires or the referees at the end of the game, then that's probably a game that had some problems with some of the officiating. But if those officials are invisible, then maybe it was a great game because the story wasn't a distraction. And that's kind of where you get lighting design. And this might be my second poor metaphor of the podcast, by the way, Michael. But if I continue that poor metaphor into you think about what it takes for a lighting designer to do their magic and design architectural lighting into various projects. Sometimes the lighting disappears. You don't see the source, but that wall is beautifully illuminated in a very even way that produces whatever the effect was desired. And then other
Yeah,
times
it's
the
the
lighting
medium is
makes
the
a statement.
message. The medium is the message, not the light source. You shouldn't walk
Yeah,
into a well-lit room thinking about the lighting. 100% right.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. But sometimes you do use the lighting to make an impact. But you're right. It's not down at the diode level or the fixture level.
Yeah.
It's about whatever it's illuminating. That the dynamic lighting that's casting light on the side of a stadium. It's right. It's the effect and not necessarily the source itself. So she's a talented lighting designer
I
with a
love
talented
working in
team
a
of people,
vacuum.
and it's awesome.
I love
Why is
working in a
that?
vacuum. I tell my people, this is a heist. You want to get in there. You don't want anyone to notice that you're there. You want to leave, and then you want to get the money, and then you want to cut the money out to whoever was involved in the heist. It's a lighting heist. If people know you were there, it means you screwed up. Get in, get out. Nobody knows. You're happy with the lights. It's a heist. I love it. That's what I love. I love a good heist. Love working in a
There you go.
vacuum. That girl's a genius.
All right. The next one is Dan Darby, the Light Fair show director. The leaders in the lighting industry consistently update their lines with new design innovations and solutions that pace alongside demand and respond to global issues. and the ability to experience these products in person will be imperative moving into the new year. The industry clearly demonstrated at Light Fair 2021 that it's eager to get back to an in-person landscape and reconnect. And I predict we will see more recovery of the industry and face-to-face commerce resuming in 22. As the world's largest commercial and industrial lighting trade show, Light Fair will be the catalyst in reuniting the industry.
Whew.
I like that word,
Ooh.
reuniting the industry. I think that's what it does. I mean, how cool was that at Light Fair this year? Although there wasn't a ton of people, but just to get everybody and see everybody that you've done all these Zoom calls or emails with, but actually, oh, there's Al. There's this guy, there's that person, and it was
Mm,
awesome. So I agree with
mm.
that.
And it was surreal recognizing people who I knew only from social media or stuff like this. Like Greg, you
Mm.
and I had never met, but
Right?
and it probably made you uncomfortable when I did this. But I walked up and gave you a big hug. I'm like, hey, this is
I loved
Greg.
it.
It's my buddy from the podcast.
I had to reach up.
But you're right. I think the Dan uses the word reunite. When I was doing my daily
Mm.
video reports from Light Fair back in October last year, I said in one of those things that there was a feeling of homecoming, like that college or high school homecoming where you're seeing old friends and making new ones and connections. And so there is that. And also in mid-December, we published a list of trade shows that are happening for 2021, and there's 21 or so of different trade shows planned, and we put the subtitle being that this might be the year 2022 might be the year where people, in-person events start to see a major comeback. So let's hope that everyone is comfortable and healthy and all that other stuff that goes along with that conversation. But I think the in-person events do bring value, not only to educate but to connect and network and really build the relationships upon which this industry is built.
Very
Amen.
good. And last but not least, it looks like the longest, and I kind of figured it would be that coming from him. David Gordon, the president of Channel Marketing Group. He didn't
David.
follow your rules, Al, with 2 sentences.
Well,
From
no,
an
he gave
electrical.
it was 2 or 3 sentences, but he gave like run-on sentences, so he did
Oh,
qualify. He
that's what
did
it
qualify, but it's like 2 paragraphs though.
is. Right. So here we go. From an electrical distribution viewpoint, expect a repeat of 2021. Supply chain issues continue through the year, some price inflation prompting more price increases, nominal revenue growth for the product category, but brand names will outperform and take share through the channel as renovation work is strong and distribution prefers to migrate to trusted brands that can perform. Distribution and rep agent consolidation will continue, challenging many small and niche suppliers to find ways to market. Manufacturers with many brand names question the value of niche brands and move to promoting their company as a brand diminishing product brands, all in name of cost savings. Many non-differentiated manufacturers struggle without a value proposition. So
Ooh, a
he's
lot to
saying,
digest there.
yeah, he's saying the top brands or the big dogs are going to get bigger and continue to take market share is what I would take out of that.
Yeah, assuming the big dogs are the trusted brands, which in many cases they are. But he also predicts that some of the niche brands might go away. So if you're a big lighting company with 37 sub brands, you might do what GM did years ago and get rid of Oldsmobile and some of those other brands and just kind of oversimplify things. And there could be some truth to that part as well. But let me ask you guys, because you guys speak to this better than I can. As lighting distributors, you know it from a distribution standpoint, but you also know it from a contractor and end user standpoint. How important is the brand, and where does the brand? How does a buying a decision maker for lighting products that goes to you? Where does the brand factor into that decision to choose brand A or brand B?
There's only 3 brands in the lighting industry that the customers know: GE, Philips, and Sylvania. Okay? So when they're talking about their brands, they're talking about distributors knowing who they are. They're talking about reps knowing who they are. They're about the character. They're about the goodwill in the industry for them. They're not talking about recognition from the end user. End user has no idea what's going on. They have no clue. If the end user is entirely relying on the Greg Eric's of the world to give them quality products. And you know what? We switcheroo all the time, like we talked about earlier in the ing. Because you know what? I know the owner of that company now that I'm gonna get a grip on lighting, so I'm calling him if his products are shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna call him up. and
Yeah.
say, you fix it. This isn't my problem. And it's going to be a one-on-one conversation at this point. So I switch a
So
rule all the time.
to your contractors, to your end users, are you the brand? Is your distributorship the brand that they trust
kind
you
of.
and then you
Yes,
deliver?
yes. In a sense, yes. They're buying from and you know what? At the end of the day, the person who's embarrassed when the product burns out is me.
Yeah.
It's not the other. It's not the other guy anyway. So I am the brand. Greg is the brand. We got to deal with it when the tubes start to flicker or half of them go off or 25 fixtures are out. It's us. Where's that lighting guy with the stupid hat? Yeah, I can't remember. We just install these lights last year? No, that was 4 years ago. Oh, I thought it was last year. This is the kind of stuff you do. They don't know whose brand it is. It doesn't even make a difference. The end user. So they have to build their brands within the industry, right? They have to cultivate that message to lighting people. They're never going to get to the end user. The end user's mind is so busy. There's no penetration there for what kind of light fixtures.
Because we made it that way too. The lighting industry is to blame for where it's at now because it used to be that way. It used to be, I want Philips, I want GE, I want Sylvania, and now they don't know what they want. They just want whatever they're supposed to have. And
that's only because
their
parts burned out faster than the other parts in the fixture.
True.
Right? So the GE, Philips, and Sylvania, they had the part of the fixture that burned out the most. So people knew this one's a little bit better than the other crappy one. I hate to put it that way, but the advanced ballast was making a much more reliable piece of equipment. It lasted 15, 20, 30 years. So which is the better brand? I don't know. That's a secret sauce question right there.
And I think, the other part too that I took out of this is and Al, you mentioned, but what's happening, and we saw one yesterday with Signify Influence, is those niche brands that are like they focus on this thing. The big guys, the big companies, going to buy that and have it part of their brand now. So I see a lot of that, more and more of that's going to happen.
So yeah, I think brands are important. Love to hear your perspectives on your thoughts regarding to your customers. And yeah, I think if anything we learned during the pandemic with the importance of social media, I think the individual can be the brand a lot, right? We have a set of credibility, our honor, our word, our solution set that we deliver to those customers. So yeah, great conversation on the David Gordon thoughts. So thank you for your insights, guys.
And if you've made it to the end here, that's Al Uszynski, the lighting genie. And we thank utilitygenius.com. That's right. The lighting genie thanks utilitygenius.com. Greg Garrick uses them. So that means you should. Do you need to know anything more from Incentive Energy? We've made it to the end here. All you people that listen, I'll tell you this right now. You're not our listeners or our fans. You're just colleagues. You should come on the show sometime. Contact Get a Grip Studios. Bye for now.